How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Darkside. This is Season 1, Episode 11, and this one's entitled Djinn No Chaser. But Djinn is not spelled like the drink, it's spelled D-J-I-N-N, like the creature, the Djinn. So yeah, it's a pun. This episode aired January 13th, 1985, so this is the first 1985 episode. If we were watching these live, this would be them coming back from Christmas break. This time around, this episode was directed by Shelley Levinson and stars Charles Levin, Colleen Camp, and features a special guest appearance by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The teleplay was written by Haskell Barkin, based on a short story by Harlan Ellison. Harlan Ellison is this really big, well-renowned sci-fi author, and you guys may know him for things like A Boy and His Dog, and I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. So yeah, really cool to see them adapting another short story. You know, just a little bit ago, they adapted a Stephen King short story with Word Processor of the Gods. Eventually, they would even do a Clive Barker one, so I really do like when they adapt famous authors' short stories. These really seem to be a good home for them. But anyway, this story is about two newlyweds. They've been only married like 4 days. The wife wants to decorate the apartment, and they go into a shop and she finds what she thinks would be a perfect accent piece for her table, this old school style Arabian lamp. They bring it home, and it turns out it does have a genie in it, but rather than granting wishes, this genie is upset because he's trapped inside the lamp, so rather than giving them a wish, he decides to make their life as miserable as possible, holds them captive in their own apartment, and wrecks up the place, you know, and it turns into, you know, crazy, almost like you're stuck in a Jumanji, but it's just your apartment. It's pretty cool. This one has got lots of humor. Now, I said with the last episode, A Case of the Stubborns, I really did not like the humor in that one. So when I saw this was going to be another humorous episode, I was a little bit weary of it. But this one does humor so much better. There's lots of quick wit. It does a lot of, you know, insult humor. And the humor here has substance, you know. What I really didn't like about A Case of the Stubborns is there was absolutely no substance. It was a cartoonish southern accent, and the grandpa was like, I'm dead, isn't that funny? And just, you know, running around in a zombie costume being silly, you know? So I really didn't like A Case of the Stubborns. I thought it was pretty bad. But this one, it's fun, quick wit, jokes, and insults, you know? I thought this one was so much better than the last episode. This one was pretty good. Now that being said, it's by no means perfect, and there are definite faults with this episode. In particular, the ending. The ending is drug out a little bit too long, and also there's this whole plot with him being in an asylum that ultimately goes nowhere. But also, and quite oddly, is much like A Case of the Stubborns, it ends on a relatively dumb joke. So, yeah, dumb joke ending, whatever with that. So I don't feel it quite nailed the landing, and these characters are, you know, pretty in your face, and they are kind of jerk characters, and if you're not big on jerk characters, they might not really be for you, but I really did like, you know, this quick wit, humor, you know, really fast pace, really rapid fire. I liked it so much better than the last episode, so I thought this was a definite improvement as far as the humorous episodes go. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk a bit about the plot. Now, I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to analyze the episode and talk about the plot. I'll just avoid the end bits. But anyway, we open up with a framing mechanism. The narrator, he's in an asylum, and he's telling you the story of how he got there. He's really talking to the doctor, but the camera's pretty much put right in front of his face, and he's talking directly to us. Kind of reminds me of In the Mouth of Madness, the John Carpenter movie, where the guy was in the asylum and you figured out how he got there. But anyway, he's telling the story, and right off the bat you see that quick, fast-paced humor, Oh, I like my padded cell, it's very comfortable. Anything you can do about my arms, So stuff like that. And then we jump back in time, and we see him and his wife living their regular everyday life. They've only been married for 4 days, and she wants to redo the apartment in a Turkish/Mesopotamian style, and they're talking about this, and he doesn't want to go crazy with the budget, and they're walking by this alley, and the alley has this big abandoned space where there was just nothing there. They turn away for a minute, look back, and there's this big tent set up, a sort of Arabian-style tent, and they both look at each other and go, that wasn't there a second ago, right? We weren't paying attention, so I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure this was just an empty lot. So right off the bat, it's a little bit self-aware, where they know that they're in a weird situation, and they'll talk openly about how weird it is. They go in, and the wife finds this oil lamp, and she says, it's rusty now, but I can clean it up, and it's going to look really great on the coffee table. And he haggles the guy down. He at first lists the price in a foreign unit of currency, and he's like, oh wait, let me convert that to dollars, $30. And the guy's like, that's too much, and they haggle down to $10. And as they haggle, they're like, I'll go lower, but I'm also going to insult you, So he's like, I'll go lower, or I'll go with this amount, but may all your kids have horrible eyesight, or I'll go with this amount, but may something fall from the sky and squish you flat, things like that. So that insult humor, even before the genie shows up, is definitely in this episode. So they eventually get it down to $10. He thinks he's got a good deal, and the guy goes, you're breaking me. Do you want another one for the same price? So maybe not as good of a deal as they think, but they take it home, and it, is a lamp very much like what you might see in an Aladdin story, and they're lying in bed thinking about how weird it is. The shop actually also disappeared when they left. That's a little harder to ignore. So they're at a weird store, they got an Aladdin-style lamp, and they're both lying in bed thinking about how weird it is, and the wife's like, we gotta go rub the magic lamp, right? And he's like, don't do that, that's silly, there's no such thing as genies and lamps and wishes and stuff. And she goes, yeah, but we got to, though. And she decides to rub the lamp, and they hear a big booming voice coming from the sky, and he's like, whoa, we're gonna get kicked out of an apartment with a voice that big and loud and booming. And right off the bat, they're on the wrong foot with the genie. The genie's insulting them, he's insulting the genie, and you find out the genie is very, very upset. They say, hey, can I get some wishes? And he's like, I'm not granting anyone any wishes. I was trapped in here by a wizard, but he got the magic spell wrong, and now I can't leave. So I'm literally stuck inside of this lamp and can't get out. And because of that, I'm not granting anybody any wishes. So he gets really mad, he gets really upset, and he starts to make it rain inside their apartment. So the first of these Jumanji bits here. So it's raining inside the apartment, and then it cuts to some amount of time later. Not sure how long, but they've been trapped and they've been suffering, and the apartment is just a mess. There's dirt and slime everywhere. Everything's torn up. They're wearing raggedy, disheveled clothing, and you can tell that the genie's just been wreaking absolute havoc. And whenever they try to leave, there's an animal in the hallway, a jungle animal. Again, a very Jumanji element. But I do have to say, with the animals, you can kind of tell the budget. Again, Tales from the Darkside is relatively low budget, and when they go in the hallway and you just hear the animal sound effect, yeah, that's a low budget moment. But hey, they found a way to do it, and it's kind of humorous that way. One scene that works better where you don't see anything is the guy starts to hallucinate, and he'll say he saw someone from his past or something horrific happens, and the fact that we don't see it but hear him react to it and say, oh no, you're so-and-so, get away from me, that actually works really well, and it's a cheap way to do it, you know, so having it in his head, it kind of is unnerving. So they're getting totally screwed over by this genie, and I won't go any further in the plot because I don't want to spoil it, but I will say, I'll talk a bit about the ending, but in a vague way so I don't spoil it. But basically that whole I'm in an asylum thing doesn't have a super big payoff. It's just kind of like, oh, and now we're done with that plot. And the very end, there's a scene where everything's pretty much resolved, and it goes on for just a little bit too long, and I'm like, okay, where are we going here? And then it all ends on a joke, and it's a pretty dumb joke, you know, not gonna lie. And I could kind of see it coming. I'm like, oh gosh, it's not gonna be. And then it was. So, yeah, it didn't quite stick the landing, and there are definite elements that don't work, but I still do like that fast-paced, quick-witted, you know, insult humor. It really did work, you know, and I liked this episode quite a bit. Not the best episode ever of the show, but hey, it was a pretty fun little experiment, and I felt that this attempt at humor was so much better than the last episode. So I know we got more humorous episodes coming. Hopefully they're more like this and less like A Case of the Stubborns, because I did not like that episode. This one was pretty fun, and I am curious, because, you know, 2 humor episodes, but 2 very different humor episodes. I'm hoping we get an array of different types of humor episodes, you know, where they're not all just, here's a silly episode, this is how we do it. I like that we got 2 different kinds of humor episodes, so hopefully when we get more silly episodes, they're not all the same type of humor. That would be interesting, you know. Like I said, a lot of these episodes going through and doing these watches, a lot of them are my first time, so I'm curious to see what the next few episodes hold. Up next, we have All a Clone by the Telephone, so another pun, and I'm curious to see what that one looks like. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Tales from the Darkside playlist, where you can find me talking about all the past episodes. So the last 10 episodes, I have a review for all those, plus the Christmas episodes, I did those early around Christmas, and the Joe Hill comic book based on his pitch for the CW reboot that never came out. That's in there as well. So if you want to see me talk about more Darkside, relevant playlist on the bottom. Anyway, see you guys again very, very soon. Have a good day. Darkside playlist right here. Have a good day now.